The widow of a man from the company of the prophets cried out to Elisha. Her husband, a man who feared the Lord, was gone, but he had left behind a heavy debt. Now the creditor was coming to take her 2 sons as his slaves to pay what was owed. She had nowhere else to turn. In her grief and fear, she sought the man of God, pleading for a way to save her family. Elisha looked upon her with compassion. "How can I help you?" he asked. "Tell me, what do you have in your house?" "Your servant has nothing there at all," she said softly, her voice trembling. "Nothing at all." "Except a small jar of olive oil." It was the last of her resources, seemingly insignificant against the mountain of her debt. Elisha said, "Go around and ask all your neighbors for empty jars. Don't ask for just a few. Then go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons. Pour oil into all the jars, and as each is filled, put it to one side." She did not hesitate. Despite the strangeness of the request, she sent her sons into the village to gather what they could. House by house the boys went. Their neighbors looked on with curiosity, but they handed over every empty vessel they could spare. The collection grew. They gathered jars of every shape and size, trusting in the word given by the prophet. She left him and shut the door behind her and her sons. The world was locked out. It was time for the miracle to begin. They brought the jars to her, and she kept pouring. From her tiny resource, a steady stream of golden oil began to flow. The first jar was filled to the brim. She looked at her small vessel. It was as full as when she started. She moved to the next, and then the next. The oil continued to flow, a river of provision in the midst of poverty. Her sons worked alongside her, their eyes wide with wonder. They had never seen anything like this before. Vessel after vessel was filled. The small jar seemed to hold an infinite supply, governed by the power of the Almighty. The floor was soon covered. The once empty house was now filled with wealth beyond anything they had ever imagined. When all the jars were full, she said to her son, "Bring me another one." But he replied, "There is not a jar left." And then the oil stopped flowing. The miracle was perfectly measured to the level of their faith and preparation. A profound silence filled the room. The widow looked at the abundance, her heart overflowing with gratitude. She went and told the man of God what had happened. She did not keep the miracle to herself. She sought his guidance. He said, "Go, sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your sons can live on what is left." The oil was of the finest quality. People came from all around to purchase it, and soon she had more than enough to pay the creditor. With her sons by her side, she paid every last coin of the debt. The threat of slavery was gone forever. But the miracle didn't end with the debt. There was still oil remaining, more than enough for them to live on for a long time. Her sons grew up as free men, witnesses to the power of faith and the provision of the God their father had served. The story of the widow's oil remains a testament for all generations. It reminds us that God can do much with very little. When we offer what we have in faith, the jar of provision never runs dry. His grace is always sufficient for our needs. Trust in Him, and you will see. He is a father to the fatherless and a defender of widows. Amen.